The Homestuck Epilogue Summary. Candy. Meanwhile, inside the black hole, another timeline has been in progress. In this timeline, John chooses to eat candy at the picnic instead of meat. Upon doing so, he starts feeling sweet and sentimental about the time with his friends that he missed out on while holed up at home, and which he now risks sacrificing by leaving. He chooses to ignore Lord English and stay on Earth, to Roxy and Calliope's approval. This failure to validate Canon leads John to suspect that his existence is somehow insubstantial and meaningless. Calliope distracts him with one final task. He must rescue Gamzee, who she insists deserves to begin his redemption arc immediately. John reluctantly does so, retrieving him from the final moments before the events of S collide. Back on Earth C, Gamzee is set free from the fridge and declares his redemption arc begun. He claims that every bad thing he had ever done was simply due to extenuating circumstances beyond his control. Roxy and Calliope are taken in by this transparent bullshit. Not buying this foolishness for a second, John texts Terezi out in the furthest ring. The two privately dunk on Gamzee, who begins attracting the attention of civilians with his performative contrition. John's decision not to validate the truth of Canon does not go unnoticed. Dirk, as his ascended self, is shaken by this profound undermining of his own narrative significance. He calls Jane, tells her to cancel her presidential bid, and goes off the grid. Jane visits Jake at his mansion, where he's been getting drunk and shooting things. They discuss Dirk's strange behavior and sudden disappearance. As Jane joins in with Jake's day drinking, she attempts to seduce him but is ignored. Not to be denied, she resorts to using the terrible power of the trickster lollipop. The two sleep together. When they come to, Jake is alarmed by his lack of consent in the matter. Jane manages to talk him into a committed relationship. Rose wakes up, miraculously recovered from her illness. She and Kanaya renew their vows of love to one another. Soon after, they visit the brooding caverns and find a newly hatched grub which bears a striking resemblance to Vriska's circuit. Rose and Kanaya decide to adopt this grub, and name her Vriska Mariam Lalonde, or Vriska ML for short. Jade gives the news of Jane's political withdrawal to Dave and Karkat. They all agree that this is a welcome development. Jade proceeds to aggressively flirt with Dave and Karkat. They both agree that this is a very unwelcome development. She then drags the two of them out on a date, pressuring their feelings even further. Eventually, it becomes unbearable. Karkat throws a tantrum, and Dave simply fucks off. John and Roxy go on a coffee date. Gamzee soon interferes, offering to act as John's wingman while Roxy is in the bathroom. John is naturally disgusted by this. Gamzee leaves, and John surreptitiously texts Terezi about it until Roxy returns. Dave then interrupts, taking John outside and asking for advice on handling his relationship with Jade and Karkat. John can't give him a satisfying answer. Dave decides that he needs to talk to his bro, and goes to his studio. There he finds Gamzee, as well as a note left by Dirk. Dave's worst fears are realized as Dirk kills himself by hanging in public, his death automatically proving just due to his self-hatred. At Dirk's funeral, Dave gives a conflicted but heartfelt speech which Gamzee immediately defiles with his own eulogy. John leaves in disgust right on time to interrupt a crucial moment of intimacy between Dave and Karkat outside. John offers to retcon Dirk's death, but Dave refuses. Once Dave and Karkat leave Jade's call, John notices that he can't seem to use his retcon powers at all. Roxy comes outside and proposes to John, which he accepts. John texts Terezi, but a time flow difference between the interior of the black hole and the furthest ring outside it results in them speaking again 6 months after the wedding takes place. John reveals Roxy is now pregnant with their first child. In the meantime, Jade's relationship with Dave and Karkat has not been going well. Jane's bizarre three-way with Jake and Gamzee is even worse. Unaware that he is speaking to Terezi from inside the black hole, John tries to convince her to return to Earth C. She refuses. 3 months later, John and a heavily pregnant Roxy visit Rose and Kanaya. John becomes confused when it appears that none of his friends remember the true course of canonical events. Rose, in particular, does not seem to recall pressuring him into fighting Lord English at all. He continues to message Terezi in secret, her presence seeming to be the only real thing in his life. Jane and Gamzee's relationship has taken a turn for the collisionists. Jake, who had been caring for his and Jane's biological son, Tavros Crocker, leaves the room. Gamzee's amorous honks follow him out as he calls Jade and has a short, sad conversation about their respective futures. Swept up in the baby-making spree, Jade tries to pressure Dave and Karkat into having kids between the three of them. They are characteristically recalcitrant. Their discussion is interrupted by the sudden arrival of the corpse of teen Jade, who fell into the black hole in the Meat timeline. Jade immediately takes her alternate self's body to Jane, but Jane cannot heal her, noting with frustration that she doesn't seem quite dead. The event has brought everyone together, though, and Roxy tries to capitalize on the opportunity by suggesting another funeral. The sudden proximity inflames the political situation, though, with Karkat and Kanaya publicly opposing Jane's machinations. Karkat expresses his anger as Jade does not take his side in the face of Jane's flagrant xenophobia. He delivers a damning speech and then leaves, breaking off his relationship with Jade and Dave in the process. The funeral for teen Jade happens in spite of this setback. During the proceedings, Aradia and Solix inexplicably show up. Roxy's speech is cut short by going into labor. John races her to the hospital and Callie moves to follow, but gets distracted by the sudden reanimation of teen Jade's corpse. The body wakes up claiming to be the alternate version of Calliope who destroyed the Green Sun. She now exists as the consciousness of the black hole that devoured it, channeled through Jade's body. She says she has come here to protect their world and prepare to challenge Dirk, who is simultaneously assuming control of events outside the black hole's event horizon. Events begin to accelerate. 3 years in the future, Terezi messages John on the third birthday of his son, Harry Anderson Egbert. John fills Terezi in on the current state of events, which have rapidly begun to deteriorate. Troll ghosts who are sucked into the black hole have begun falling from the sky en masse. Jane is using her business to lobby the government into instituting more and more totalitarian controls on the troll population. Karkat has established a rebel faction. The rebellion basically sucks until Mina shows up wearing the Ring of Life which she stole from John. She agrees to be Karkat's second in command and starts whipping the resistance into shape. Gamzee has started performing public redemptions, featuring sloppy makeouts and baby bottles full of Jane's breast milk. Worried about Tavros Crocker's abusive home life, John plans to kidnap him. He puts this plan into action during Harry's 5th birthday party, held at Jane's manor. The two of them argue loudly enough to alert the rest of their friends. John and Jane have a confrontation that culminates in John losing control of the windy thing. He leaves the party in disgrace. Terezi texts him and the two open up about their existential despair. Terezi admits that she's dying of starvation, but can't bring herself to give up searching for Vriska. Their conversation ends with Terezi saying she wanted to give John closure. John is worried about the implications of his continuing involvement with Terezi and flies around until his dad's car crashes through the sky. Noticing Terezi's blood all over the back seat from their hate fuck session in Meat, John mistakenly takes this to mean she is dead. This leads to an existential tantrum so intense, it forces the narrative to skip 10 years. Harry Anderson is now a shitty teen and dating the slightly less shitty Vriska ML, who is in a collisionist relationship with Tavros Crocker. They consider running away from home and joining Karkat's rebellion together because things are so fucked. John himself is now epically divorced. He attends Jade and Dave's wedding where he meets Karkat. He considers joining Karkat's rebellion, but decides against it because he thinks he'd be too sad and useless. Karkat flees to avoid meeting Dave, who comes outside to talk to his best friend. John throws away the selfie he asked Terezi to take 10 years ago, making peace with the idea that nothing matters anymore. The original Vriska, sucked into the black hole during the battle against Lord English, drops in from the sky. She's alive, and she's pissed. Alternate Calliope spots Lord English's own entrance into the black hole and moves to intercept him. Jake informs Jane that her father has died protecting the president from an assassination attempt by Karkat's rebellion. Jane launches a full-scale war to kill Karkat, and when Gamzee objects to her xenophobic rhetoric, she kicks him out of her life and off her Imperial warship. Vriska, now dubbed Vriska S, hates the inconsequential reality she finds herself in and wants to return to Canon immediately. They're interrupted by Gamzee, who tries to manipulate Vriska into a sexual relationship in the name of redemption. She delivers a righteous and savage beatdown, but the clown's disgusting wiles have the desired effect. The two hate smooch behind some bushes. Rose and Kanaya arrive, themselves now important rebellion figures. John is distracted from the horrific clownery by Rose, who thanks him for making the choice that put them on this path. She no longer cares if this reality is true, relevant, or essential, and is enjoying the simple happiness of loving her wife and daughter. Vriska ML discovers her namesake in the bushes with Gamzee. Vriska S freaks out. Gamzee tries to manipulate her some more, implying that somehow she took advantage of him, despite their age difference. She kills him, and the two Vriskas acquaint themselves. Vriska ML reveals that she stole John's phone. They read his conversations with Terezi, and after divulging her long-standing and complex romantic feelings for her fellow Scourge sister, Vriska S sends Terezi a message. John returns to his father's house, where he discovers Jake and Tavros, who have fled the Crocker household. Jake and John have a heart-to-heart. Jake convinces John to reach out to Roxy and Harry Anderson. John meets Roxy at their old house. John believes that his actions have doomed everyone to insignificance. Roxy decries this self-important nonsense and opens up to him about her feelings about their marriage, gender, and childbirth. When Harry Anderson arrives home, John asks him if he'd like to go for a drive. Harry agrees. Dave and Jade, now working for Karkat's rebellion, work far from the front line excavating ancient Earth artifacts. They get separated and Dave finds his way inside the ruins of the Oval Office. There he finds a transportalizer that leads him to a chamber with a Hero of Hope outfit and a holographic projection of Barack Obama, who addresses him directly. Dave talks to his hero about his sexuality. Obama comforts him, before convincing him to ascend to his ultimate self and enter the robot body Dirk had apparently prepared for him sometime before. The dead cherub, still inhabiting Teen Jade's body, explains to Aradia that their reality, being composed of stories, is open to manipulation by any agent powerful enough to assume the role of narrator. Such manipulation may only become apparent in hindsight, casting into doubt the neutrality of all events prior, and hence undermining the very integrity of the story in which they live. This is, she reveals, what Dirk has been up to outside the event horizon. The dead cherub then kills and devours Lord English. By doing so, she attains heights of power heretofore unmatched. She punches a wormhole in the fabric of the black hole, allowing a brief window of escape from its gravitational well. Davebot arrives. The cherub, Davebot, and Aradia leave through the portal in pursuit of the prince. Davebot arrives. The cherub, Davebot, and Aradia leave through the portal in pursuit of the prince.
Now you're all caught up and ready for Homestuck 2. If you'd like to see a full Let's Read of the epilogues, come visit our friends over at the Soup Kitchen. See you next time!